So what do you need to do to become a tech support scammer, and how much does it cost to get set up? So I decided to become a tech support scammer for a day. So I made a list of the things I'd need: a fake virus pop-up, a suitable domain name, a website to host the pop-up on, a USA free phone number, a bit of advertising, and some remote access software. If anyone did really call, I would explain to them that it was a scam and that I was just conducting an experiment. I wanted to act the way normal scammers do. What they typically do is register lots and lots of domains because they get shut down very quickly, and they often have the word critical warning or virus detected or something of that nature. Equally, I didn't want to spend a lot of money on this venture, so I decided to pick the cheapest possible domain name I could get my hands on. And for the princely sum of less than $1, Namecheap.com gave me the option of buying system warning-virus detected.club, and it even included free WhoisGuard. Not that I really needed this, because I registered it with completely fake details anyway. No checks were made whatsoever. But rather than create my own pop-up from scratch, I decided to use one that was used by scammers today. So I picked one recent one, and I downloaded it and just edited the HTML to put in my own phone number. With a little bit of research on the internet, I came up with globalcallforwarding.com, who offered a 1-888 number, a US free phone number, to forward to any number of my choice in the UK. Just like Namecheap, there was no checking of my identity, but I was required to give some billing details so that they would continue billing me after the trial had ended. I did have to give them legitimate details for this part. So once I had my US free phone number, it was time to start hosting my fake pop-up. For the hosting, I chose Amazon Web Services, primarily because it was free and I'd seen other scammers use this in the past. I just used Amazon's S3 service because this easily lets me copy all of the HTML into what they call buckets. So I created 2 websites, one for system warning-virus detected.club and the other with the www in front of it. So I just loaded all of the files that I needed for the pop-ups. The last thing I needed to do was point the DNS name to my new website. And with one click, my pop-up was ready. This is what it looked like.
Critical alert from Microsoft. Your computer has alerted us that it is infected by a virus and/or spyware. This virus may be sending.
So the only thing left to do is now to get some traffic. I'll do this in exactly the same way the scammers do. Pay some advertisers. For well over a year now, I've been part of a Facebook group called Scammer Awareness. This name isn't what it sounds like. This is where tech support and other scammers go to sell your and my data, and they also advertise payment gateways for other scammers to use. Here, for example, is a scammer showing that he will give you UK and USA inbound calls, and yet another one is looking for Microsoft best quality calls, in other words, tech support fraud calls. All of this is being done quite openly. He not only includes his name, but his phone number and location in Delhi. But the real purpose of the group is to expose people who sell data to call centres and the data is worthless. Either that or they just take the money and run. I've left a link to the Facebook group below just so that you can have a chuckle. There's no hint of irony whenever the scammers get ripped off themselves. So I certainly wasn't going to use any of these groups to advertise my pop-up. No, I would have to go to some legitimate sources. I decided to use an advertising company called popads.net for a couple of reasons. Number 1, they seem to be being used by scammers. And number 2, they don't seem to be doing a lot of checks, particularly from the adverts I've seen scammers use in the past. I created a campaign called Research into Pop-Up Scams, and I give the URL of my freshly created pop-up. Now, I'm not any kind of internet marketer, and I have no idea how much it would legitimately cost to get my pop-up seen by thousands of people. But I worked my way through the campaign details and decided on a number of parameters. Firstly, I had a US phone number, and people in other countries are very unlikely to make international calls, so I decided to pick the United States as my target country. Next, I only wanted Windows users. This pop-up only works for Windows users, so there was no point in picking anyone else. I was even able to exclude Windows Phone users. I only wanted the desktop or laptop customers. Finally, there was just me who was going to be manning this support desk, so I needed to make sure I was only going to get the calls during the hours that I was awake. So with all those parameters set, I hit the create button. It told me to expect around 700,000 views per day, but that was with unlimited budget. I had really no idea how long $20 would actually last. What surprised me a bit was that my campaign went into pending approval status. In other words, somebody was going to check what my advertisement was about. So to avoid any problems, I initially pointed my new domain at a children's charity. But to my surprise and to the credit of popads.net, when I checked a little later, it was seen as not approved and detected correctly as a tech support scam. I was a little bit suspicious of pop ads because I knew that scammers had used this in the past, so I decided simply to change the name of the campaign, and instead I called it Charity Care instead of Research into Pop-up Scams. Nothing else changed. I even continued to use the same scammy domain name. And that did the trick. This time my campaign was approved. I was ready to go. I was able to look at my real-time traffic stats. It was telling me that there were nearly 15,000 views of my pop-up ad in less than 30 minutes. So with my budget doubled to $40 and 14,708 views of my pop-up, just how many phone calls did I get? The answer was a big fat 0. I got no phone calls whatsoever. So why was this? Why had my marketing strategy completely failed? Well, within 6 hours of that website going live, it was classified as a deceptive or dangerous website, and most browsers started to block the content. I have to give Amazon a bit of credit for detecting this pop-up scam, or alternatively, it could have been someone who just reported this. But getting the calls was never the point of this experiment. It was all about seeing how quick and easy it was to set up one of these scam websites and to find out exactly how much it would cost. And as you can see, my biggest cost was the $40 for marketing. The DNS name was practically nothing, of 57 cents for an entire year. I had expected the free phone number to cost a fair bit, but because of the trial period, I was able to get this for free. And likewise, the web hosting was completely free. So for a total of $40.57, I had myself a complete scam pop-up marketing campaign. I'm pretty sure these low outlays may also apply to all pop-up scammers, although they may have their advertising campaigns much better targeted than mine. So given the lack of checking of any sort of identity, it's no wonder that these scammer groups continue to very openly sell their pop-up campaigns on the likes of Skype and Facebook groups. Here you can see a Skype group where they have no qualms in selling pop-ups which freeze people's computers, and it is targeted at England, France and Germany, and they also say that they can cloak the identity of the people running the scam. Their campaigns also cover things like Google AdWords, and they offer support for Norton, McAfee, Office and many more computing applications. They will often brag about the number of calls they receive, and they will also forward some of these calls on to other call centres at a price. The people in this Skype group are quite happy to buy and sell these calls without acknowledging that at the end of the call there's a victim. In fact, they will brag about just how many calls they're receiving and for other call centres to get involved in the activity. So although I was unable to get any calls myself, I did prove just how easy and how cheap it is to get set up on one of these pop-up campaigns. As usual, if you like my videos, please hit that subscribe button. You can also contact me on Twitter at JimBrowning11, and I have a Patreon account which is linked to below if you'd like to support me that way. Once again, thanks for watching.